Hey, everybody who's joining us, let us know where you are joining us from as everybody logs on. And we are live on the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook group. It's, by the way, Robert Shaw, like the best group on Facebook, period. End of story. I feel like we need to give them a shout out for creating a community of 75,000 real estate agents who actively participate. It's really hard to do, isn't it, Stephanie? Have you guys ever tried to do a group like that?
Oh yeah, yep. It's really hard to get followers and to get enough content for people to want to pay attention on a continuous level.
It really is, yeah. All right.
I think we got up to 41 and they were all in our group.
I love it. This is me killing time, letting everybody just have a chance to get on. And I can see we're starting to get some people telling us where they're from. We always have, I have to say, like, I love our agents because we've got Tacoma, Marysville, Olympia, so many people. Usually we have people from all over the country. So as everybody logs on, hello, Facebook world. We're happy to have you. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name is Bea Williams. I'm with the Ben Kinney Companies, and this is our Wednesday webinar. So we do Wednesday webinars every Wednesday, almost like clockwork, at 12 noon Pacific time. For those of you who don't like doing math in your heads, me, that would be 1 p.m. Idaho Falls time. Hey, aren't you impressed that I did Mountain Time? Nobody ever does Mountain Time. Okay. I know. I was pretty good, I thought. 2 p.m. CST and 3 p.m. EST. So that's every Wednesday. And the minute I say that, I have to tell you, next Wednesday, I'm taking it off. But besides next Wednesday, it's almost every Wednesday that we do these. And these are for you, real estate agents. These are for every single real estate agent and every single brokerage affiliation, right? We don't care. This is our way to give back. And we feel like if we can raise the bar for everybody, that we're all better, our industry's better. So last week was the first for me because I don't know if you guys know this, we haven't really talked about this, but last week I was my own guest. I've never done that before. And I presented with Seychelle Van Poel, and we presented on how to track data and real estate and how to present it to your clients and what those scripts look like and what it looks like, how to understand it without being an economist, right? Because none of us are economists. I truly believe that knowing how to present data and growing to love it and learning how to track it has been one of the best things I've ever done to convert business when I'm in buyer meetings and listing meetings. And so I highly recommend you guys, you can watch the replay right here. For those of you that are on our list, we email that to you every week anyway. In 2 weeks, we've got an incredible Wednesday webinar. We have a Power ISA session. So we've got Sarah Reynolds of the Reynolds teams. We have her ISA. We have Lance Lokins and Tony Baroni's. By the way, Tony Baroni's ISA is signing buyer consult agreements. He's having buyers sign buyer consult agreements before they come in for the buyer consult.
Wow.
So, I mean, talk about amazing. So he's going to tell us how. I had to have him on once I heard that. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn that. And we're just going to learn what they're saying right now and what's working. And then after that, we're going to do a 2-part session on farming. We have 2 people that have incredible farms, Tiffany Fikes, and I think Kenny Klaus is going to come on in the next one. And so just stick around. This is all free. There's never any obligation. We just do this to give back to our agent community, like I said. So today, I've been looking forward to this for so long. And for all of you guys who follow me, you know I have been, because I've been talking about it for a long time. So I'm so excited. I've got the Anderson Hicks Group here from Idaho Falls. And here's the thing, and here's how I know these guys. I met Mike Hicks, Mike, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago,
Yeah, somewhere in there, maybe longer. I lose track. I'm notorious for losing track of time.
Well, so am I. That makes, we're not good together like that, because I have no idea either, but yeah. Feels like a long time ago. And I remember him getting in front of a small group of us who were meeting with Gary Keller. We have a top agent group that meets regularly. And Gary sat Mike in front of the room, and there's probably 100 of us in the room. And Mike gave the promise. And you could have heard a pin drop in that room. We were all just blown away. And then as I started getting to know Mike and then Stephanie, I've had the pleasure, for those of you who don't know Stephanie Brackett, she's probably one of the best cooks in America, FYI. She's an amazing cook. So I had the opportunity to enjoy some of that cooking at a retreat, a small retreat that I had the honor of being invited to chat with them. And then Kris and Shawn. Kris, I think I had met you, but I really met you, Kris Bertagnolli and Shawn. I met in Bellingham a couple of years ago, right as you guys were doing your merger. So I've kind of known everyone for the last couple of years, and I've just been in awe of their business. And I think one of the cool things you guys need to know before we launch into the promise, which is I know what you're all here for. But I think it's really important to spend a few minutes. Shawn, I'd like to kind of toss it to you. I think it's fascinating that, the Shawn Anderson Group and the Mike Hicks Group were two of the top agent groups or agent teams in Idaho Falls. And in November, and it's funny because Mike and Kris, you guys were together, and then Stephanie and Shawn, you guys had worked together. And then in November of 2018, you guys merged to become the Anderson Hicks Group. And I think that warrants a few minutes before we dive in. I think that's really interesting. What prompted that?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. You're first up.
Mike planted a seed a few years ago. He kind of mentioned it briefly just one day in passing and didn't really sit in at the time because we were, I was too focused on overtaking him in the first position in this market to see that opportunity. So we've been chasing him for years, and in a good way. We always had a ton of respect for him and their team. We were just doing our thing. Stephanie and I, we had a team, and we were just doing our thing. And then I've known Kris for quite a few years, and then he started working with Mike. And so Kris and I just over the years have always gone to lunch periodically just to talk about business. And at one of those lunches he was talking about working with Mike, and I was talking about our side, and we were talking about things that were going well, things that weren't going well. And we realized that it was almost like a puzzle. And if you put those two pieces together, it filled in gaps to where, we've been working to fill in gaps for years on our own. We thought, man. And so that was when the seed was kind of born for us, the two of us. And then Kris started talking to Mike about it. I started talking to Stephanie about it. Before you know it, we're spending hours and hours and hours in my basement in the middle of the night trying to put this thing together in secret. So that's the 2-minute version. Of course, there's a lot more details. I'm sure every one of these guys has their version of the story, but that's the true one. So there you go.
Well, no, I think that's good, because I think what's fascinating, I'm just going live. Apparently we didn't go live. So I'm just, I'm not being rude and typing while you're talking. I'm actually trying to make sure our tech is working. I apologize. I think what's interesting, Shawn, is that you have two of the biggest competitors, if you will, in a market merging. And I just think that that's really, I think it's really indicative of our culture and kind of who we are here. Yeah. That instead of, that you merged. I just think it's really cool that you guys made that decision, right? That together you're better. And it sounds like you all have strengths that you bring to the table that complement each other.
Yeah, totally. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So again, before we launch into the promise, which I know you're all here for, I do think that it also warrants kind of understanding what the team looks like right now. And then we're gonna have Mike kind of go through this with us. But Stephanie Brackett, the COO, would you mind kind of walking through the makeup of the team right now?
Sure. So we have the four of us that run the leadership team. Mike is still very much in production. He sold, probably only about 85 houses so far this year. Mike. And
only about 85.
Only about 85.
Mike, how many are you going to sell so far this year personally, do you think?
Oh, I think we set me up this year anticipating that I'd sell 100. What was it? Shawn knows these numbers better than I do. I'm such a numbers guy for this, but 140 or 150, something like that.
On your, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. So Mike the legend. Yeah. So there's the four of us that make up the leadership team. We do have a sales manager that we hired recently, and he's awesome. He's managing the agents and coaching and training them. We have 9 agents currently. We've got a team of 6 ISAs. We have a success team of 15. That's not including myself, so 15 besides me.
And just to be crystal clear, I know we throw out this language a lot, but just to be crystal clear, ISA means inside sales agent, and really they are on the phone full time, and they're appointment setters, correct? Or
correct.
Yours are appointment setters. Okay.
Appointment setters and follow up with leads until we get them to set the appointment. Yep.
Yeah, we thought that was pretty cool until you told us that other ISAs are signing reps. So you just
right? I was blown away. Well, you'll have to watch. So it's 2 weeks from today. You too can watch that. Yeah, the Tony Baroni team, they're actually signing buyer reps before the buyer. I just want to be clear because I'm kind of blown away by that. Yeah.
And I guess I should add too, Bia, that we do have 4 agents in Utah too at our new expansion location. So we have an expansion team in Salt Lake, and we've got a listing agent and the expansion partner there, and then 3 buyers agents we've hired.
Oh, that's exciting. Congrats on your first expansion team. Wow, that's great. That's awesome. And when you say success team, I love that, by the way. I'm gonna probably nick that. But when you say success team, you mean your admin and operations team.
Correct. And I think Mike coined that phrase. I think that credit goes to Michael.
Yeah.
But that's what they do. They create success here for the agents.
Absolutely. And I get that, which is why I love the name of it. That's really the foundation of our team, is our success team, which I'm now going to start using. That's really great. Mike Hicks, are you ready, my friend? I know everybody watching right now wants to hear what in the world the promise is, how it's delivered, and what the history of it is, and when you started using it. So many questions. So let's start with that before we launch into the actual script. How long have you been using this, and how did it start?
So when I started real estate, it was back in 1988. So I will have been doing this 32 years in October. And, back in that day, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have fax machines. We didn't have any of that. Our MLS book was a binder with pages. So the consumer didn't have information. The only advertising media we had was the post register and signs. And even today, I'm not the guy who'll go knock on doors or do anything. So I do anything like that. I'm not extroverted enough for it. So I just decided, being new to real estate and actually pretty new to the community, that I needed to figure out a way to get business from my business. And it just became a focus. And I really just right away started off with the idea that everybody I did business with, that they would number one, or I want to say get in contact with, that they would do business with me. If they didn't do business with me, that I would find out why. That if they did do business with me, that they would send me business. And if they didn't, I would find out why. And so my goal was for every person, every family I did business with, that they would send me at least one piece of business. And that's where the idea came from, because it's the only way I could figure it out, being new in the community. And so I developed good phone skills so I could convert, get information, connect with people. And then the script the idea formulated, and the script just grew from there. And honestly, it was very rudimentary. And for everybody listening to this, the promise is not just a script, it's a process. But I started off really basic, almost as direct as I'm being in this, that I just tell people, look, my goal is to do business with you, and that when you choose to do business with me, that you'll be so happy that you're going to send me business while we're working together. And if you don't, please tell me why, so that I can get better. And so back at that time, our average sales price in Idaho Falls was about $59,000. First year of real estate, I did $3.5 million worth of sales. So that was about 60 homes in my first year. Second year was 5.7, third year 7.5, fourth year $10 million worth of volume. And I got an assistant after my fourth year. And after my fourth year, about 85% of my business was coming from business. I really wasn't having to take cold calls or anything. It was just repeat and referral business that I was doing.
So basically you're getting your clients to replace themselves, which I love, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in essence. And I think that the second part of that, Mike, is that so many of our agents watching and listening right now are really good agents. Like, they're amazing practitioners, and they also don't love cold calling, and they don't love door knocking. And I think that
nobody does.
No one, I don't. And so I think that what's happening is they're really doing a good job for their clients, and then they're not getting more. They're not getting repeat clients. And so it's like they're a billboard in the desert, right? They're this great agent who's, really good at what they do, and no one else, not enough people are experiencing it, right? So for me, this is, it's genius. It's amazing. And it's a way to systemize. A lot of times we say referral, but this is a way to actually systemize it in all aspects of your business. So let's walk through it. Can you go through the 4 parts of the promise with us all?
Sure. So just want me to tell you just basically what they're about, right?
Sure.
So the first part of the promise is actually us making the commitment, us setting out the bar to say, hey, this is our goal for you, to create this amazing, unbelievable experience. The second part of the script is saying, hey, that's not our only goal. We've got another goal. And that one is that you will send business, that will do such a great job that you'll send business, that you'll call, text, or email me. Now, I learned over time that what happened was that even though I asked people to call me, a lot of times people would actually say, well, Mike, we'd be happy to give out your name. That wasn't what I never said that. I said, well, you call me with their information, but they would say, hey, we'll give out your name. And so that evolved the third part of the script to say, so look, hopefully while we're working together, you will be giving out my name, which I appreciate, but that's not good enough. Basically is what I'm saying. That's not good enough. You need today, call, text, or email me. That way I'll be able to help them. The fourth part of the script is okay, we got to closing. You haven't given me a name. You haven't, it's been crickets. So I'm going to assume that we didn't deliver on the first part, our promise. And so we have what I call the exit interview part of this is that we're going to find out why didn't you, what could we have done differently to earn it? And then close up by saying, hey, but we're going to deliver. So we really do count and expect you to deliver, you to deliver as well. Mm-hmm. So that's really the summary. So the first part, the promise. The second part, the initial training on, hey, this other goal to send business. The third is the reinforcement and the actual, this is how you do it. The fourth, if you don't, I want to find out why, but then just recommit that we will deliver, and we hope they will too.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, do you want to go through it with me? Are you comfortable role playing it right now?
Oh, sure.
Mike, if you're not comfortable, I could do it. I'd be willing.
Sean, I could. Show them that Kris, you got it, man.
I'm totally kidding. They came to hear you. Let's hear it.
We're making Mike do it. That's the bottom line.
There you go. Hey, Sevilla. I know we're about done for the day. Do you have another minute?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Appreciate that. So Via, I wanted to talk to you about our promise. So our group, we've got this promise, this goal to create for you an experience that you honestly, you can't imagine. You can't imagine it being any better. All of our systems and everything we do are designed to deliver on that promise. Everyone in our group is focused on understanding what it is that you want and what it is that you need. We make every effort to stay out in front of everything, to stop the surprises and make it just as good as it can be. But just know there will be challenges. It's real estate and it's people. But no matter what's going on, always remember we're focused on delivering that 10 plus experience for you, if you will. And yeah, that's our promise. Doesn't that sound great?
That sounds great.
Yeah, cool. So there's more to it. Can you believe it?
Duh.
So listen, we have a second goal as well. And just to say it, this goal that we have is that sometime from right now until the day we get closed on your home, that you will feel so great about what we're doing for you that you will actually call, text me, or email me the name of someone who needs help in real estate. Like you, they may need to sell. They may be thinking about buying, investing, refinancing. If they just need help in real estate. They might just have that general question. So could you do that?
Yeah, I can think of someone, I'm sure.
Okay, well, that'd be awesome. So just to make sure that you understand what I'm asking, is that while we're working together, hopefully you'll be giving out my name, which I truly, truly appreciate, because you know what, word of mouth, it's the lifeblood of our business. But what I'm asking is that you take the next step to make sure that I have a chance to help. In addition to giving out my name, please call, text, or email me their information. That way, there's 100% chance that I'll be in touch to see if I can help. So can you do that?
Yeah, I can do that, definitely.
Okay, so you'll call or text or email, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
Okay, well, that'd be perfect. That's awesome. So when we get to the day of closing, to let you know just how serious we are about this. So the date of closing comes, there we are, we're at the closing table. We've signed all the documents, but I know that you haven't been in touch with the name of somebody that we could help. I'm going to assume we didn't deliver on our promise, that we could have done better. So I'm going to want to talk to you about that to find out what it is that we could have done differently in order to have earned that referral from you. Will it be okay if we do that?
Sure, you bet.
It's pretty intense, huh?
No, it's okay.
Okay, cool. Well, I want you to know, Via, that we are going to deliver on the promise, and I'm going to count on you. I'm going to count on you for that referral, okay?
Sounds good. You can count on me.
Okay, that's our promise. That's the deal.
All right. Yay, I feel like we should applaud. I should have had an applause track on here.
Nice job, Mike.
Via, he missed 3 words, just so you know, off the script.
Yeah.
Calling it out.
Oh,
No, he didn't.
well,
That was so heartfelt. He could have said anything, and it was so heartfelt. I was right there with you, Mike.
It's so cool. Good. It's so good, Mike. And I have so many questions. One of my questions is, what do you think are the most important elements in all of that?
So, in the first part, and I really didn't do this with you, Via, and I probably should have, there's different places where, number one, you can inject somebody's name. I could have said, so Via, I want to make sure you understand, though, that there will be challenges. It's real estate and it's people. So when you do that, which I didn't do when I presented this, I was trying to stay right with the script. That'll create some connection to pull people in. But for those who end up with a copy of the script, there's some words in here that are italicized or focused or doing something like that. But it's really important to that please, and that third part when I say so, to make sure that I have a chance to get in touch, please. That word please, pausing, please, call, text. That please is an activator. That moves stuff from the back to the front. I mean, it causes people to want to do something when you do that. So that's really important. It's important to pause. It's a long script, and so there's a tendency to hurry. Don't hurry. Take your time. At no point in time, I hope you never felt like I was hurrying. I was pausing. I wanted to make sure that people had time to hear the message that I was wanting to try to deliver. And so often that's the thing. People just, hey, I know the script, man, I can rock and roll through this thing. I can do this thing in 90 seconds. Well, if you do it in 90 seconds, they didn't hear a word. Most of the time, by the way, if you're working with buyers, at least in days gone by, you can break this script up. but it's a little harder today where we aren't riding with people anymore. They're following us in cars. So you have to figure out a different way to do this. But anyway, I would tell you that's a very important part. And the real nugget in all of this for people who are really, really, truly focused on this to grow their business is that exit interview. That's really a crucial thing. So I have a client that has done business with me over the years, but even though they've done business with me, I still go through this to remind them. And so his name's Doug. And so we were at the closing table, and this was the, I don't know, 4th or 5th time that we've done business together over 20 years. And we're at the table, and he hasn't given me a name during the time. And so the closer gets up, she's headed off to the copier to make copies of the closing package. And so I spun around in my chair and I looked at Doug and just said, so dude, I need to check in with you. How did this all go? And Doug says, Mike, it went great. Why do you ask? And I said, well, I told you in the beginning that if we got here and you hadn't called me with somebody who could help, then I'm going to assume we didn't do our gig, that we didn't deliver. And he just smiled and he leaned back and he reached in his front pocket and he pulled out a slip of paper, had 2 names with phone numbers on it, and said, Mike, I was just waiting to see if you'd done this. Here they are. They're expecting your call. But if you hadn't done this, I wasn't going to give you the names. So, somebody who really listened, but he was a client. He also knew what this was about. So it's also important to do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to do this, make sure you do it. But it's the gold. If you aren't doing things well, how better to find it out than the people you're doing business with? And the truth is, the people who are the happiest give you the most valuable tips. Because you can say to them I ask you and you say, oh, Mike, you're so wonderful, and you're just fawning all over me. And I say, oh, Via, I'm so glad you're in love with me to tell me. Just do me a favor. Just give me one thing, just your gut, one thing that we could do better. And typically, whatever you said coming out of that would be one of the most valuable things that I will pick up. From your great clients, you pick up great tips.
Wow, there is so much gold in all of this. And please don't tell Dee that I'm in love with Mike. I don't think she'd like that very well.
You and Barbara Corcoran both. It's okay.
But I might be. I love this because it does a couple of things. It does so many things. But what comes into my mind, Mike, are its accountability to you, the agent. As you say this script, and because our word needs to be in integrity, then we have to do what we say we're going to do, as you said. And so this is a really good accountability to us, if we're saying this up front, to do a really good job with our clients, because we know that we told them we're going to say this at the closing table or whatever. We don't have a closing table here, but same difference. And so I think that's huge. And the other thing is, and I think this is the biggest thing, you guys, for all of you watching, you have to ask the question. You have to ask for the referral, or you will not get it. It doesn't magically float through the atmosphere and just come to you. You have to ask. Who better to ask than your clients who are happy? And I guarantee you'll make them happy if you do the promise up front, because you're feeling bound by it. If you say this up front, human nature is you will want to do a good job for them, right? It's incredible.
Yeah, a real key, and I think we're headed in this direction with the conversation. It's great that an agent can recite this script, and it's hard to get agents to learn and recite and stick with this. We all want to change the script. We all look at everybody who looks at this is going to say, well, that doesn't sound like me. And I do tell people, when you read a Dr. Seuss book, does it sound like you? Do you change the words, or do you use Dr. Seuss's words and you adopt it to make it yours, so with the same words? And so it's really the same thing to inflect it. But this has to be a systemic thing. In other words, it's not a one-time thing. It's how you practice your business. So from a standpoint of our business, our ISAs recite this script, our success team recites this script, our leadership team recites this script. About the only one who doesn't is our photographer. but everybody else knows the script.
Well, well said, Mike. And you couldn't have made a better transition for me to go to Kris. I asked the whole ELT to be here today because I have known about the promise long enough to understand that everybody in your organization has to follow through with it. So Kris, you lead the amazing agents and ISAs on your team. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you kind of walk us through, do you just train them on the script once and forget about it and never check in with them again? What does it look like? I knew the answer to that.
Absolutely not.
What does this look like? If people who have teams right now are listening, I'd love you to kind of talk to what does it look like to get your team to buy off on and to continue to drill down on this?
I think obviously it flows through everything that we have. It's in our listing documents. It's, in our buyer facing documents. It's throughout all of our collateral that is client facing. And so what we do is day one, when a new agent comes on, we've got a buyer certification process where part of their training program is they've got to go through certain scripts. But the first one is the promise. They've got to know the promise like the back of their hand. So they memorize that, and it's interesting to watch their face when you hand them 2 pages of script, right, and say, this is the first thing you're going to memorize. We've actually had agents come in that knew on day one it was going to be an expectation. They've come in with it memorized, which has kind of shocked a few of us. But memorizing it is just the first piece. I talk about memorizing, then internalizing, and then personalizing. And you saw a little bit of that in what Mike did. Right? They've got to memorize the script completely word for word and know it line by line. And then they've got to internalize its meaning. Like Mike was talking about, they've got to know why we're going through part 1, part 2. So we coach to that. But then I think what it really ingrains it is we do, and we picked this up a little bit from Ben and Jolene when we came to visit, and we do gratitude in the morning, but we always end our gratitude, our winning minute with either our core values, our mission, or the promise. And each individual will have success team members take either part 1 or part 2, and we just flow through it. And as we've done that, that's really helped to ingrain it throughout the team. So
that's fantastic. And so when you overhear let me not presume that. How do you inspect what you expect? How do you inspect with your ISAs and your agents that they are using this correctly?
That's a good question. I think really Steph. I mean, I'm just going to say it's Steph and her team. Every appointment that our agents go on, the ISAs will set it up. We've got parts of our buyer consult or our buyer interview form or our seller interview form that talk about the promise and say, hey, was the promise delivered to the client? And then the minute that anything goes under contract, the welcome call, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steph, I believe it's right in the welcome call when Nicole makes that or Janelle, they're asking, hey, did Kris discuss the promise with you? And if they say no, then there's a task that fires back to the agent, and I get CC'd on that, and we go and talk about it, and we say, okay, how are we going to do this next time? Or what do we need to do here? Did it come up, or was it just part 1? But really, the inspection piece, I think, comes as we do it as a group. That's really... it's pure inspection, right? People are, everybody gets a chance to do that. And then Steph's systems, they're pretty foolproof. So yeah.
Well, we're going to go into those. Stephanie, the COO master, is going to walk us through all that. So Stephanie, thank you, Kris, by the way. I think that's really helpful for those people that are thinking about implementing this. Stephanie, you are amazing, and I think one of the things that warrants a shout out is it okay if I say your personal news that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you've lost 100 pounds in how long?
8.5 months.
8.5 months. It's amazing. Congratulations, my friend. I know how hard that is. That's really impressive, and you're continuing to stay on that process.
Yep, amazing. 30 more to go.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I think what's also awesome is that you're such a great cook. Like, how do you not eat all your own food? That's a different topic.
I just stopped cooking. Like, sorry, babe, it's hot dogs for dinner. You can boil them yourself.
I don't know. I feel like the world's out a really, really good cook, but never mind. Different topic. I want to hear so Kris just transitioned it perfectly. I want to hear what it looks like from the success team, from admin and ops on the promise. If you could kind of walk us through how you guys are involved in this, that would be
absolutely. That was one piece that, when we merged teams and we knew Mike had this gold, like this was gold, this was a gem, and we knew he had it. And we're like, how do we make this into a system and make sure it's ingrained in everything we do? So I went through every email template we use, every script we use on the success team, and every single one of them says something about the promise in it. And so then we systematized how we deliver it. So like Kris said, when Nicole makes the welcome call, she doesn't say, did they talk to you about the promise? She says it assumptively. So Mike talked to you about the promise, yes? And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, if that was the answer they get, then Nicole says, oh, okay, well, our team has this goal, this promise to create this experience that you can't imagine being any better. And she kind of starts into the script. 85% of the time, they're like, oh, yeah, he did talk to me about that. They just don't know it by the promise.
Right.
And so if they say yes, then she says, great. Well, I just want you to know it's not just Mike. It's the entire success team that's going to deliver on this promise. And if there's anything that you need during this process, please feel free to reach out. And I will be checking in with you continuously to make sure that we're delivering on our promise. So we mention it, and then every phone call that gets made, hey, is there anything we could be doing better to deliver on our promise? What questions do you have for us? It's always trying to draw information out of them to make sure that we're staying ahead of everything and that we're stopping the surprises. That's the goal.
So Stephanie, am I understanding that you end every call with, is there anything we can do better? And do you have any other questions, basically?
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
Yep. And Shawn, Shawn and I have worked together for 10 years, and he says you fail when you don't stop surprises. That's how you fail with the client. If something is a surprise, they get to closing and there's some sort of surprise, that's failure. That's when it's not good. And so that's what our goal is, to always stay ahead of those surprises. And that's how we really deliver on the promise, is to stop the surprises.
Oh, that's so true. I completely agree. So good. So, yeah.
And something as well with those questions that Steph is talking about. In every phone call, you don't have time to do this, but as often as you can, to say, what questions do you have? And then if there's anything coming out of that call that requires action, to say, well, if this is what's going to happen next.
I love that.
And so creating expectations, which helps quiet the phones a little bit. So if you tell somebody, well, here's what's going to happen next, and if I haven't heard anything by 10 o'clock tomorrow, I'll give you a call, at least so you know that at least we're still thinking of you. But as soon as I hear, by 10 o'clock tomorrow, you hear from me. So just that's part of what our success team is really good at. We're trying to get our sales group working at that as well. We're just, that sales group, excuse makers that we all are, I'm in the middle of it, is that, sometimes we have a hard time slowing up long enough to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're totally right that the customer, the client, always wants to know what's coming next. That's fantastic. Stephanie, anything else that I didn't ask you about, the process as it relates to the promise that you want to share?
Probably just that there's high visibility around who's delivering the promise. So when they make that call, if the client says, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, they'll deliver the promise. The success team will deliver the promise to them, but they will notate in our system that it was not delivered by the agent. And then every day we have a report that goes out that's called the Hustle Board. And Shawn's amazing at creating reports. And it says what % of people, based on what the success team found out when they made the welcome call, have gotten the promise, have received the promise. And our goal is to be 90% or above. And generally that's where we're falling, is above 90%.
So the whole organization sees the hustle. What did you call it?
Hustle Board.
The Hustle Board.
Chris's name. Yep. Chris named
that.
it.
And that's a daily activity or cumulative?
That it's a running cumulative. Yeah. How many? It's for the whole year, isn't it, Shawn?
Yeah, that one is.
The metrics are all varied based on time frame, but that one is their cumulative total of promises delivered.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. And Shawn, speaking of hustle boards, let's talk about this. So you were not using the promise, as I understand, before the merger. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
I think that's really valuable because a lot of people here are listening to this thinking, I want to implement this. And you've got pretty fresh goggles on that, right? It hasn't been 2 years. And so you you understand firsthand what it's like to bring this to an organization. What was it like for you and your agents that weren't used to doing it?
Well, it's funny because about 6 months, we had heard about it. Like, I wasn't in Gary Keller's group when Mike delivered it. And so I didn't hear that, but I started hearing whisperings of it. And then we started seeing some stuff around town about it. And we weren't sure what it was. And so we just kind of dismissed it, didn't really worry about it. I did get my hands on a copy of the script and I read it and I thought, that's pretty cool. But it didn't hit me as powerfully as it hits others when they hear it or see it for the first time, for whatever reason. And then I was at a family reunion and I met another agent that was in that group, and she said, so you're in Mike Hicks' town? Like, you worked with him, like you work in that same town? I said, yeah. And she said, can you believe the promise? And she spent the next 10 minutes and she like grabbed me by the cheeks. She's like this sweet old lady. I won't say who it is, but she just grabbed me by the cheeks and she's like, we fire agents that don't use the promise. Like, it's of all of the reunions and everything I've been to, I've never heard anything more valuable, and I will fire someone on the spot if they don't use this. And I was like, wow, what am I missing? And I came back from that, and Stephanie and I started talking about it. I said, okay, we better get our hands on this and start looking at it and digging into it. And we were in that process as the merger came about. And so, and then we got to hear Mike do it, and really it is. I want to re-emphasize what Mike said. When you read it on paper for the first time, you will 100% want to change it and make it your own. I mean, I cannot stress that enough, and I can't stress the importance of not doing that until you have mastered it. Once you've done it 100 times with clients, and you've had other people say, yeah, that sounds natural, like you're not reading it, then if you want to change it, go ahead. But I don't think you have a right to do that until you have mastered it. Because the first time I did it, it was so awkward. But now when I do it, I can, it feels like it's coming from the heart. And you can tell from Mike, the cool thing is it sounds like it's the first time he's delivering it. Like, he's coming up with it as he's going because he's speaking from the heart. So that's it hasn't been hard to embrace it all. It's been fun to watch our agents learn it. We make it really fun, like Kris said, in Winning Minute. We'll try to do it backwards, or we'll try to see who can do it the fastest, even though that's not how we want to deliver it to clients, just to see how well it's internalized. Or we'll do one word at a time and bounce around. A lot of ways to just make it interesting, because after a year and a half, that can get a little dull in the meeting. So it's been fun to embrace it. It's pretty cool to see the numbers of repeat and referral business that we have. That speaks for itself. So.
Well, I'd love to dive into that. That's exactly what I wanted to ask you. What do the numbers look like? How much repeat and referral business are you getting and attributing to the promise?
Well, so total, and one thing that we probably need to move towards is actually allocate a lead to the promise. Right now, we're measuring repeat and referral business, and it's kind of lumped together. Yeah. For Mike's numbers, his is at 89.51%. Of his business over the last 12 months is repeat and referral. And he doesn't miss a chance to do the promise. So that's pretty cool. When he heard that, he's like, crap, did I drop a little bit? So that was kind of that he looks at that number and thinks he's failing, which is cool. As a team, we're at 65.4% of all of our business is repeat and referral. And we do a lot of marketing. That's not because that's all we do. I mean, we do outbound calling, plus we spend money to try to attract leads. People ask us, are we prospect-based or attract-based? And it's pretty mixed. I mean, I'd say we're split on focus there. And so, but yeah, that's the percentage of our business is coming from repeat and referral. And it's the cheapest kind too. And it's the easiest kind because they come already with a high level of trust. So the process conversion is easier. Grace is higher. So if something does go wrong, they're just quicker to forgive and quicker to work through it with us. They treat the success team better generally. It's just better all around. I don't think anybody watching would dispute that.
But once you have that third party endorsement, it does give them more grace, I think, because, you know, they're like, well, so-and-so and so-and-so had amazing experience. And you're right. They're washed coming into it, right? They're slightly brainwashed in a good way coming into it.
Yeah.
So,
and if something's going wrong, they wonder, what's wrong with me? I wonder what, like, am I difficult? They start questioning their own. That's happened to me. I think, man, everybody else that uses these people loves them, and I'm not having a good experience. I must be a jerk.
that's so funny. You're so right too. I'm curious, have you played around with ratios for every listing you get? Do you have an awareness of how many clients you're getting from that? Because, you know, the blueprint would say that for every one listing we get, hopefully we get 2 to 3 more clients from that, right? Are you guys tracking that at all? Because I'm wondering if the promise, especially with listings, is helping you bolster that number.
We're not tracking it at that level. I wish we were. There are definitely some opportunities for us to dig in more. And like I said, of those 90% that Mike got, you know, we can assume that most of those came from the promise, but maybe not all of them. And so it'd be nice to be able to track that, but we don't at this point.
Yeah. And as for tracking, I don't think you probably need to break out the promise, because from a statistics standpoint, if you're at an 89 to 90, 91%, a number of your agents all using the promise, then your repeat and referrals almost, you know, statistically, it's going to almost all be from that. Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do try, success stories are important for those that are watching that are team leaders. I mean, we'll have Mike come to Winning Minute and say, okay, yesterday I got a text and it said, hey, Mike, can you call my mom? Here's her name, here's her number. You know, and when new agents are coming onto the team, or agents that are in the business but new to our team, that's not normally how they get referrals. Normally, the way the average agent gets a referral is the client calls them and says, hey, John told me to give you a call. And so that means you're only getting 20% of the opportunities where your name is mentioned. Because like Mike said, the other 80% of the time, they say, okay, cool, I'll give him a call. And then they don't. And so, but Mike's come to him in a text or a phone call from the referrer saying, get a hold of this person. And like this promise says, that way there's 100% chance of connection. And that's why when you ask what the most important part of the promise is, it's all critical. But when you re-emphasize, now I just want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. You know, and what I'm saying is that don't tell them to call me. This is not the script right there, but that's the message. Don't have them call me. I want you to have me call them. Then there's 100% chance. That part, if you do all of this and leave that out, then you're missing an opportunity.
Yeah, it's almost like the first pass is getting acknowledgement that they want to refer you. And then the second pass is, no, I want you to understand you're actually giving me their name and number. Yeah, you're so right. You have to do all 4 of these, and you have to repeat it verbatim. This is not time to be creative, per Shawn, right? You get 100 times. Once you deliver it 100 times, we all give you permission to start tweaking it if you want. I don't know why. If you do this 100 times and it's working,
that's why would you? After that, you won't feel the need. That's why I say that with confidence. If you do, then call Mike and then give him the version 2.0, and then we'll all start doing it your way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I think that's a really important point you guys are making, because the fact is, after you internalize this and really own it, and it's coming from in you, you really have no desire to really change it. I mean, you might change most of the time when I talk about the closing table, I'll say, hey, we're at the closing table. Imagine we're sitting at the closing table. The balloons are all around. I mean, the balloons are going, it's happy day, celebration, it's party. But I know that you haven't been in touch. So, I may create a vision, but I will roll right back exactly verbatim into the script. So it's almost more like a pause in the script to add something that might embellish it, but it's not changing the script. And so, yeah, you just get there, and it's just, you just stick with it. Just make it yours.
That's right. So I'm looking at some of our questions. We're getting a lot of questions directed at us. Stephanie, would you role play with me what your welcome phone call looks like from your success team? Am I putting you on the spot? I didn't ask you ahead of time.
No, I'm fine doing that. Okay, I'm Nicole, because that's who I have to be. Hey,
okay.
Yeah, it's Nicole from Anderson Hicks Group. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Hey, do you have a couple minutes to talk?
Yeah, I do.
Great. So Mike turned in your contract today. Congratulations on getting your home under contract. That's super exciting. And I'm going to be the one helping through this process.
Awesome.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you, Mike talked to you about our promise, yes?
Yeah, he did.
Awesome. I'm so glad he covered that with you. I just want you to know that it's not just him that's going to be delivering on this promise. It's the whole success team. And I'm here at my desk all day, every day during the week. So if you have any questions, I should be your first point of contact. Just reach out to me and I'll be sure and get your questions answered right away. If I'm not here, there's other people on the success team that are also able to answer those questions for you. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you for calling.
Great. Okay. So the first step is the inspection, and then she goes into the inspection process, getting that scheduled, getting that set up. But that's the basic intro to the welcome call.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. That's so
and then
good.
She ends with, what questions do you have for me? And our very next step will be yada, yada, yada. And I'll call you at such and such a date and time to follow up on that.
That's fantastic. That's so good. Thank you. We had 2 people asking that, so I appreciate it. That's great. Kris, I also had someone asking a little earlier when you were talking, if you can share a little bit about how your ISAs are weaving this in. So I'm assuming the question meant when they're setting the contract, is this part of the pre-qualification portion of that? How does this get woven in to your ISAs combos?
You know what? They're not delivering it. We leave it more for the agents. The ISAs are more focused on, and you know what? That's not absolutely true, but I would say as part of the nurturing process, they're not giving the promise or delivering the promise. What's really cool is as you walk around our building or amongst the team, you'll hear little pieces of the promise coming out in conversations. And that's what I hear mostly from the ISAs. They're not necessarily delivering it, but if somebody says, well, what sets you apart from other people that we're going to be talking to? They say, well, we have a promise. Our team, our goal has a promise to deliver an experience that you just can't imagine being any better. It's a 10+ experience we're after, right? So while that's not the promise, they'll actually talk a little bit about it, and then they'll say, and the agent will discuss that a little bit more when they come out. So the ISAs do set the tone a little bit, but it's not one of the pre-qualifying indicators that we use. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I'm cool with that. How do your agents, let's pretend we're at a buyer consult and they're delivering the buyer consult. Does that come once they've gotten the agreement to work with them and they've gotten the buyer rep signed, or does it come as part of the sales process prior to that?
You know what? We actually give them freedom, right? Because you really don't know who it is that you're going to be meeting with. If you're meeting with a high D, like Mike said, it may be pretty difficult to get the whole promise out with a high D. They're just like, give me the facts, give me the numbers. And so we allow them the freedom to interweave it into the listing, into the appointment as they see fit. And then that's why Steph follows up, because if maybe they got to the second part of the promise, they're going to need to finish that off throughout the rest of this, the process of meeting with these people. So it's definitely a script. It's definitely something that they memorize, and it's part of the consults that we actually have them certify. But we give them a little creative freedom as to when they inject that into the appointment.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense to me.
But as a goal, if I could, to add to it though, as a goal, we do tell our agents that our goal is that they've gone through the promise with their clients by the completion of their second substantial appointment with the client.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's an objective that we shoot for.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Mike, when do you usually kind of, let's say you were, do you usually just go get a listing signed in the first appointment? I'm assuming you do at this point.
You know, I would tell you, I'm 50-50 on that. I go prepared to sign it. Half the time I do, half the time I don't. But when I'm in space with people, I'm going to move through at least a portion of the promise for sure, the first part of the promise for sure with every one of those substantial appointments. And then the benefit of doing it that way, then the next time I get with them, I'll say, so Sophia, when we were together last time, remember me talking to you about the promise that we're all about creating this amazing experience for you? And yeah. And I said, well, there's more to that. And then so I can go back to it again at that stage and pick it up, which is, by the way, one of the reasons that as we go through our winning minute and we just pick up different sections, we want everybody in the group to just be able to start randomly wherever it is, because your circumstances may dictate that you're just going to extract different pieces of this at different times, but the theme remains the same.
So yeah, so you're in other words, you're getting your agents to memorize the script so well that they could start in any, if there's 4 parts, they could start really in any of those 4 parts and just pick up and go, depending on where the conversation is organically. It's really important. Yeah. Well, what didn't I ask you guys as we wrap up? What didn't I ask you guys that I should have, or what do you feel like everybody really needs to know about this? Because you guys are living and breathing it more than me. And I trust that you know this better than I do. So what have I not asked you that I should have? Crickets. That's a good sign for an interviewer.
Awesome. But yeah, I think it's just, it's important to remember that it's a process, right? The team that we had, we merged in November of 2018, and I would say the team didn't get really good at this until last month. No, I'm not. But it was probably 6 or 7 months before we started to see a little bit of traction with it. And so, I can't emphasize, Shawn's already emphasized it, and Steph talked a little bit about it too, but it's memorize and internalize it. If you understand it, then you can inject it in all sorts of different conversations that you're having right now. So,
yeah. Do you guys
Go ahead.
Do you guys do a client appreciation, pre-COVID? Did you do client appreciation events? And if so, is this kind of woven in all of that? Anything you're doing with your clients?
We do client appreciation events. I don't know as much as woven, but you'll find little snippets of quotes out of the promise in a lot of stuff that we do with our clients. Just little pieces, we're hoping to create an experience you can't imagine being any better. Like, just little snippets end up in a lot of our marketing collateral and a lot of things we say. Like Kris said, you walk around the hall and you hear it in conversations. Like, it's in our DNA now.
Yeah.
It's not just a script, it's in our DNA.
Yeah. So I think that's how I'd like to wrap it, because I think that it's one thing to hear a script you like. And for all of our viewers, please listen carefully. This is not an event, it's a process. So it's not an event. We don't just say the promise and go on with our business. This is something that we adopt internally. It's a mindset. It's a customer service mindset. Your whole team around you. And I even mean, if you're working with a freelance transaction coordinator, I'm including them as part of the team, right? I'm including your escrow and your title closer if you're here in Washington, right? Everybody is part of your team, I think, needs to be aware that this is what you're basing your business on. It's a foundational tenet of your business, right? That you're basing it on. And this is how you make your living. You make your living by using the promise and getting your clients to replace themselves. And if you can get buy-in from even your non-salaried team members, I think that is crucial and pretty amazing. I think you're going to find a huge, huge change in your business. So yeah, of course, Mike, please.
Really quickly. So I want to make sure people are thinking about really the power of how this works. So if you work with 30 people in a year and you're 50% successful in getting them to refer business to you, first I want to make sure everybody remembers and realizes that referred business, the close rate on referred business is very high, very high. And it's like a 90% thing. When they refer business, it's happening business. So whatever the average commission is in your marketplace, if you're successful half the time, which means you failed half the time, but you succeeded half the time, 15 pieces of business at the average commission in your marketplace. And how many marketing dollars did you spend on that? So in 2013, which was the last year I was a single agent, I closed 303 transactions. And that
as a single agent, you closed 303 transactions.
303 in 2013, and then formed a team in 2014 because I'd had enough. So But my point is, all of that was repeat and referral. And the only way that happens is that people want to do business with you. They invest in you right away. They believe everything. I mean, that you've got that trust. It's all built in. Everything happens faster. Everything happens easier for everybody, not just you, the agent, your team, everybody. It's highly influential within your organization, and the ease with which things will happen. So just envision the power of this. And by the way, that year, my marketing budget, I spent no money on marketing. So it's highly profitable method of getting business. It's secure. It's a lot more fun too. It really is. When people want to do business with you, it's so much more fun, truly.
I'm just 303 transactions with no team, with, I'm assuming you had an assistant and three assistants, but it was all you doing the production. It's stunning. That is an absolutely stunning business with zero marketing costs. I can't think of a better place to wrap this, guys. I mean, honestly, mic drop on that. Get it? Mic drop. See what I did there? That was pretty good. Just thought I'd add that in.
All the time.
I'm sure. And I actually have this. I'm using my podcast setup, so I have a mic. Hey, Shawn Anderson, Mike Hicks, Kris Bertagnolli. I always want to say Bertagnolli. Kris Bertagnolli and Stephanie Brackett, thank you so much for coming on today. This is the Anderson Hicks Group. If you have anybody moving to Idaho Falls, these are your people, as you know, listening to this. Hey, for all of you who are subscribers on our mailing list, we're gonna send out the promise to you. Thank you for being such a loyal followers, and we will see you in 2 weeks on our next Wednesday webinar with that ISA panel, where you're going to learn, among other things, how to sign a buyer rep before the buyer even walks in the door. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.